Modern approach of zakat as an economic and social instrument for poverty alleviation and stability of Ummah. Hey guys, this is Mike and Nicole, and I will be your host for today's episode on zakat. Poverty alleviation, or solving the poverty problem, in low-income countries is becoming a worldwide issue today. It requires rapid growth in output, income, and employment. But where is the effective demand for massive increases of output to come from? Domestic demand has traditionally been important in the initial stage of accelerated economic growth. But kickstarting domestic demand necessitates rising productivity in the large agricultural sector and creating more employment, increasing income, and larger marginal prosperity to consume through integrated approach of physical investment and human capital. In this connection, Zakat Institute is one of the significant and obligatory institutions in which Muslim countries to be implemented effectively and successfully along with the governmental plans of economic and social development of the country. Being a Muslim, zakat is declared as the third pillar in the Sunnah, as well as in the Quran, without which the structure of Islam does not stand. Zakat in Islam is not a mere charity left to the righteousness of individuals as a part of their good deeds. It is rather an essential pillar of their religion, one of its major rituals and the second of its four main forms of worship. Zakat is rather a social welfare institution supervised by the state and organized as a tax administration by a specific governmental body, based on the Islamic principle in the third pillar of Islam. Now, before we talk about poverty alleviation, let's talk about what poverty actually is. Poverty is an income level that is insufficient to supply minimal nutritional and basic non-food requirements. Poverty is often defined in terms of people who live on less than $1 per day, which is 1/6 of the world population, about 1 billion people. Most definitions of poverty by economists have defined it with respect to being able to attain a standard of living. Poverty can be said to exist in any given society when one or more persons do not attain a level of economic well-being deemed to constitute a reasonable minimum by the standard of society. Poverty is also defined as the inability to attain a minimal standard living or a household that may not be able to achieve this critical level of consumption or income are described as poor. Based on this definition of poverty, it suggests that the concept of poverty or what poverty is very much determined by the norms, values, and circumstances of that society. It may then be difficult to conduct comparisons across countries and societies, since the nature, structure, and poverty may vary from one society to another. However, the word poverty can be divided into three different profiles. The poorest, best describes as the destitute poor, the structural poor, and the mobile poor. It is necessary to have information on a broad range of indicators, including income, consumption, poverty, and perception, and perspectives of the poor themselves. The poverty indicators are incomes, consumption, measured and supplemented by their other indicators: nutrition, life expectancy, under 5 mortality, school enrollment, education, and various social demographic indicators. Non-income dimensions of poverty include nutritional status, life expectancy, and adult literacy. The effects of zakat on payers is to elevate the spirit of human beings above the love of material acquisition. As a person who always needs purification and cleansing, both spiritually and materially, take sadaqah from their wealth to which they might purify and cleanse themselves. Zakat purifies the soul from miserliness. Zakat trains one to give in generosity. Zakat trains people to acquire divine characteristics. Zakat is an expression of thankfulness to Allah. Zakat is a cure for the love of worldly things. Zakat stimulates personality growth in those who pay it. Zakat improves ties of mutual love between poor and rich, and ties of brotherlyhood and love for each other. Zakat purifies wealth. If you pay zakat on your wealth, you have taken away its evil. Zakat does not purify unlawful wealth. Allah does not erase evil with evil, He rather removes evil with good. And zakat brings growth to wealth, a blessing from Allah that brings prosperity. Effect of zakat on recipients. Zakat liberates its recipients from material needs. Living in a good and prosperous life is one of the Islamic objectives for all human beings. The satisfaction of material needs of life is undoubtedly an essential ingredient of human happiness. Obviously, Islam likes people to be prosperous and hates poverty, especially when poverty is the result of unjust distribution of wealth or class oppression. The betterment of material living in Islam is not just a goal in itself, like materialistic system, but it is a means of spiritual uplifting and as a liberation of human energy from the devotion to seeking bread of worshipping and glorifying Allah. Islam is expressed in the idea that making one rich is a grace from Allah. Allah tells the Messenger, "Did we not find you impoverished and enrich you?" He tells the Muslims in Medina, "We gave you refuge and supported you with His help and provided you with good things so that you perhaps would be thankful." Allah commands zakat in order to use the surplus wealth of society to satisfy the essential needs of those who are not lucky enough to have wealth of their own, so they can enjoy the bounties of Allah and contribute to the progress of society. Letting the poor know that they are not lost or forgotten and that society cares deeply about their needs is in itself an upgrade of our sentiments and sense of brotherhood. Human dignity and the honor given to human beings by Allah require that not a single person be neglected or left by society. Zakat cleanses jealousy and hatred. Zakat is also a means of purifying the soul from evil and hatred. A man beaten down by poverty and pressed by the material necessities of life, who sees others around him enjoying a high standard of living and luxuries without helping him or extending any relief to him, will naturally be ravaged by the pressure of unsatisfied material needs and become full of hatred and enmity. Envy and hatred are some of the most devastating social diseases that destroy people and societies. Therefore, love and brotherhood among people, poor and rich, are nourished by zakat, which strengthens the bond of society and cleanses the heart of the souls. Zakat does not make it a condition for any recipient to participate or to have participation in contributions. Zakat simply provides relief for those in need and collects funds from whoever has excess. Zakat is in fact the first system of social security ever enacted in the human history, a system that does not depend on individual voluntary charity, but on governmental institution, and collects regular contributions and distributions, organized relief to all those who are in need. The system of zakat provides regular relief as well as emergency aid. We can see from Islamic history, Umar bin Abdulaziz, he divided zakat into many shares. For example, a share for the ill, the handicapped, the needy person who cannot provide for himself, the destitute, until they could be removed from destitution. A share for those in prison, for those who beg and for those who do not. The person whoever in debts, provided that the debts did not arise from disobedience to Allah. Extreme poverty is a major social calamity that Islam does not tolerate in its society. The Quran emphasizes, "It is He who created everything on the earth for you." One of the objectives Islam aims for is to reduce the society economic difference. by providing support and financial help to those who have not, to bring them closer to the ones who have. Islam tackles this problem with much of its legislation, social institutions, and economic directives in order to achieve justice both in the distribution of wealth and the distribution of income. Zakat, as we have seen, does not only provide relief to the poor, but also aims for making the poor on their own in means of production by giving them the tools and machinery necessary for productive work, so that persons given zakat are removed forever from this category of the poor and needy. Islam fights begging through education and training to the point that asking for any kind of assistance is disliked except in dire need. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said that you worship Allah and do not associate any partners with Him whatsoever, that you pray the 5 prayers, that you listen and you obey, and He whispered a word and continued, and that you do not ask people for anything. Teachings of the Prophet, peace be upon him, on self-support, there are 2 essential principles given by him, peace be upon him, to his companions. Firstly, work is a source of gaining income and means of sustenance. Muslims are urged to travel through the earth and search for the bounties of Allah through work. Work, manual or otherwise, is better than living on humiliating grants. Secondly, asking people unnecessarily is prohibited because it is undignifying. Muslim is prohibited from resorting to begging for relief except for those who are in desperate needs. As for those who are homeless, Islam prefers every person to have a home and belong to a family and does not like anyone to be homeless. Consequently, adequate shelter for a person and his or her family is included under the essential needs for the satisfaction of which zakat is imposed by Allah. And that concludes this episode on zakat. This is Micah Nicole. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.